So what if we could design a whole new economic operating system from the ground up? I mean, one that's built not just for profit, but to actually solve some of our toughest problems, like poverty and chronic illness. Today, we're going to dive deep into this idea of a resource-based economy, and it's powered by a system called BarNessQION. It's a really fascinating framework designed to turn something as simple as consumption into collective ownership for everyone.
But first things first, to really get why this solution is so different, we have to understand the problem it's trying to solve. And that means taking a hard look at the cycle of crisis we seem to be stuck in.
Just look at this chart for a second. It is absolutely staggering. It shows a 6.1-year drop in life expectancy for an indigenous community, and get this, in just 4 years. Now, despite tons of investment, the health outcomes are actually getting worse. This isn't just one program failing, it's a huge red flag that the entire system has a fundamental design flaw.
And that flaw is perfectly captured in what the source material calls the cycle of cost and crisis. We keep pouring money into this revolving door of high-cost emergency care. It provides a temporary fix, sure, but because we never get to the root causes like, say, poor nutrition, people end up right back where they started. It's a massive economic drain that just manages sickness instead of actually creating wellness.
So this forces us to ask a really important question. What if the issue isn't a lack of money? What if it's not a lack of resources at all? What if it's a fundamental problem with the design of our social and economic systems themselves? Well, the sources we're digging into today argue that's exactly what's going on.
Okay, so if it is a design problem, what does a new design even look like? Well, it all starts with something really simple, a tangible seed, if you will. The core concept here is something called a stabilization primitive. Think of it like a first responder showing up at an emergency. It's a simple, targeted action with one job: stop the immediate crisis. Stop the bleeding. And that simple act creates the stability and buys the precious time you need for the deeper, long-term healing to actually begin.
And that intervention, it takes the form of this, the BarNess Miracle Bar. It's a 400-calorie, medically tailored meal. Nothing crazy, just simple, whole ingredients. Its whole purpose is to provide that foundational nutrition that lets a person move from just surviving day to day to actually having real agency over their life. It's the first handshake, the entry point into this whole new system.
All right, so how on earth does a simple nutrition bar power a whole new economic model? Well, the answer is in something called the BarNessQION flywheel. Think of it as an engine designed to create this self-sustaining cycle of value. Let's break down exactly how it works.
So right now, our system kind of looks like this. You've got these incredibly powerful forces. Capital is always looking for growth, real estate wants stability, and tech is all about disruption. But here's the thing. They all operate in their own separate lanes, their own silos. They're running in parallel, and their massive potential to work together is just completely lost.
The new paradigm completely flips that on its head. It proposes a symbiotic engine where these forces are actually woven together. You use that agile tech capital to make irreplaceable assets like land even more valuable. And in return, that stable land provides a solid foundation for the technology. They literally start to feed each other.
And here's the nuts and bolts of how that engine works. It all kicks off with one single transaction. Someone eats or trades a Miracle Bar. That generates revenue. Then an algorithm automatically takes 20% of that revenue and puts it into a wealth fund that buys real productive assets like farmland and forests. And this last step, this is the most important part. The participants, the very people consuming the bars, become the deeded owners of those assets.
And this creates an incredibly powerful, self-reinforcing loop. The system acquires an asset, it integrates technology to make that asset more valuable, and it delivers a better experience. All of that generates returns that are immediately reinvested to go out and acquire even more assets. So every single action fuels the next one, creating this compounding value for literally everyone involved.
Okay, now let's zoom out. Let's see how this flywheel model scales from just one transaction into a massive piece of planetary-scale infrastructure. The vision here is huge. We are talking about scaling this system into a global grid of 8 million distribution nodes, a network designed to reach pretty much every corner of the planet.
These nodes are called royal oases, and the goal is to have one within a 500-meter walk of every single person on Earth. That would make basic nutrition as accessible as a utility, like turning on your tap for water. These things are solar-powered, AI-optimized, and they're designed to be run by local communities, almost like a decentralized infrastructure franchise, creating real local ownership and stewardship.
So you see, and this is the really crucial point here, this whole system isn't just about handing out food more efficiently. It's about fundamentally rewiring who owns the means of production in the first place.
The sources frame this as a direct alternative to the way wealth is usually preserved. Instead of billionaires buying up land just to protect their own fortunes from a potential collapse, this model uses that same land to actively build a new, more inclusive, and way more resilient civilization engine.
I really love this analogy they use of the global vineyard. Think about it. Every time someone eats a Miracle Bar, it's like one drop of water irrigating a vineyard that is owned by the entire community. And day by day, transaction by transaction, the community itself comes to own the soil, the harvest, and all the wealth that it creates.
And that brings us right back to the core idea of it all, the butterfly effect. It's this principle that a really small, simple, and intentional act, like providing a single nutritious meal, can be the catalyst, the spark, that triggers a massive, regenerative, system-wide transformation.
And that leaves us with a final thought to really chew on. Can we actually redesign our most basic human activities, like eating, to build a future that's more equitable, more sovereign, and just more abundant for everyone? I mean, what if the simple act of eating could build a world where everyone truly owns the trees?